Hello, everybody. This is Nico with Nerdverse Odyssey, joined by my two uncooperative compatriots. Go ahead and introduce yourself, you uncooperative bastards.
This is Hunter, his brother. I'm forced to be here.
This is Rico. Never do a favor with somebody with no questions asked with it.
Okay, well that sounded dark. Um, let's just get shit started. Hunter, how was your week?
Uh, it was good. I wasn't sick for most of it, so that's always a plus. I didn't have a ton of time this week to go ahead and watch anything or dive into anything other than Reacher season 4. Season 2 episode 4 came out, and it's fantastic. I watched it today after work. Absolutely love this season. It's I don't know how much you guys have watched the Reacher series yet, but the first season felt really campy in a really awkward way. Like for the most part, all the action is the same that we see in season 2, but it felt like they were trying too hard to introduce like the strange humor that you're gonna see in the books into the series, and it just came off really camp. But in this season, they seem to have toned it down a lot and made Reacher more of a, I guess, normal person in that regard, and not like trying to throw the humor straight at the audience. So I like that. I think this is much better season so far.
Fair. All right, Rico, you.
Um, Pretty much just like Hunter, not really too much. I mean, with Christmas coming around the corner, we've been kind of busy on everything on that part. But I think the most I've been doing is going back and watching Psych. That's like my comfort show. I'm loving going back to the show. I don't know about you guys, but I do like going back to shows because you start picking up on certain things. So from Boomman for some reason in the frame to other actors trying to sneak into the frame. Um, it's kind of pretty cool on that part, but that's pretty much it. I probably won't start something else until after this. So hopefully, Last of Us I'll start since I have Max.
Oh, that's fair. I heard that was pretty good. I just haven't really had the. I didn't really care to start it yet, I guess. Um,
Yeah, I mean
Hey
it's
Rico,
I yeah.
you hear about Pluto? That's messed up, right? It's a psych reference.
yeah,
Had
I
you
figured.
Yeah,
watched the
that's my
series, I
reference.
figured you would have caught it.
I figured as much. I don't know. For me, I caught up again. Caught up to our stopping point in Gantz, and yeah, didn't do much. I did watch a movie though, a singular movie. I watched Silent Night by John Woo, the new one with
Yes.
Joel McKinnon.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, that is an interesting movie. Not from a story perspective, but from a directing perspective. Have either of you seen this movie?
No.
I'm about 30-ish minutes into it. He's recovered from the wounds, and he's in his garage putting the plan together and going through his training montage for months.
Okay, perfect. So that movie is about 45, 50 minutes of training montage, and the rest of it is action. And I think in the entire movie, there's probably maybe 5 lines of dialogue.
Yeah,
Um,
if that.
it is a weird experience. I don't think. Don't get me wrong. I fucking love John Woo movies. As far as a John Woo movie goes, it's no hard boiled, but it's not bad. It's just kind of a tough watch, if that makes any sense. And it's not tough from a content standpoint. It's tough from the way it was shot and directed, specifically the audio. That and I will say they kind of should have spent more money on their effects budget because the CG is ass. Um, as weird as it sounds, Yu Yu Hakusho pulled it off better.
Yeah, to give you a little bit of context, Rico, The movie opens with Joel just sprinting full speed, and it's like he's chasing some gang members, and so you're like, oh, it's a cop, and he's trying to stop the bad guys. At least that's what I thought. And then one of the cars, all the guys die. The other car ends up catching up to him, and in the battle, he gets shot
And this is
two or
not a
three times.
this is not a spoiler. This is all in the
It's not. This
trailer.
is the first, yeah, all in the trailer, and it's the first like 3 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
And he gets shot a couple times, once in the throat, and then you go through like his healing process in the hospital, and once he finally gets out, he like sees images of his kid and everything else, and that's when you kind of get the feeling, oh, this guy isn't a cop or anything like that. Like he was just wrong guy, wrong place, wrong time sort of situation, and his kid ended up dying due to a gang war, and then he just goes on like a year-long training spree and then decides to murk everybody without saying a word because his vocal cords were cut when he was shot. And so there's just grunting, there's crying and everything else. But yeah, the whole thing is
Much
completely
like
quiet.
Carl Urban can act with only his mouth and chin, Joel McKinnon has a face for acting because the man's emotional range was on point. Like I said, like the movie was good, the acting was phenomenal. It's just the sound design really took me out of it, or at least made it rough. It makes it a rough watch. Definitely worth like taking a look at though.
The key question though I have is, were there any doves in this movie?
There was at least 2 pigeons and a lovebird. And
Okay,
pigeons
I'll
are
take
kind of
that.
like gutter doves, so
I'll take that.
yeah. So I think before we jump onto the Gantz wagon, because this is gonna be a short one, I think. Does anybody have some news they'd like to share? Just any random snippets they found? Because I got 2.
So not necessarily any news, but with Jonathan Majors getting fired from Marvel.
So I was gonna mention this one.
Oh, good. I really love all of the images that are going up online of who could replace Majors in the role. And my favorite one out of all of them was Denzel Washington.
Yo, I don't think they could afford Denzel, but that would be pretty
Probably
dope.
not. But yeah, there was some fan art of it. I was like, this is definitely a different approach, but I'm kind of here for it. It would be fun.
So yeah, I guess it was announced like earlier this week that they had changed the title of Avengers 5 from the Kang Dynasty to Avengers 5. So Marvel has lost the plot because I think he hasn't been charged, right? Like didn't they throw the case out or something?
No, he's been charged, but of the 4 counts against him, he was only guilty on 2 accounts, which was, paraphrasing on this one. It was assault and something else, but without intent. The
Yeah,
way it made it sound
wasn't
was,
she beating the shit out of him?
yeah, but they
So
were saying that due to some of the actions in the van, the Uber van, and then as well as her injury because she messed up her finger, it was like you were
problem
part of the
essentially.
problem that resulted in that. So it kind of sounded like if you and your brothers went on a crime spree,
Mm,
he gets shot.
mm.
The cops charge you for him getting shot or him getting murdered because your action caused that reaction,
Gotcha.
those
See,
consequences.
I love how Majors get shit canned at the mere sniff of allegations. Yet, something Ezra. What the hell?
Ezra Miller.
But see, he
Ezra
didn't
Miller kidnaps 3 kids, and he still gets
allegedly,
the flash put out.
allegedly.
a,
But
a big
he.
allegedly. That
But with
dude's
his
fucking
case, though, there
nuts.
was no charges, no nothing that was pending. Majors got found guilty. So
That's,
regardless of what he did, because I mean, they even showed the video where he ran away from the girl,
mm.
which made me laugh because they were like, man, he was in shape, running like 6 blocks, but then she was right on top of, like, right behind him, coming after him. I'm like, I don't know what you would do in that situation. I mean, some of the leaked conversations he had, like the whole for her to be a like a Michelle Obama or a Martin Luther King's. I
I did
was
hear about
like,
that.
bro, what are you? I
I
was
just
like, what are you doing?
I find that they kind of like Marvel really fucked up when they decided that they were going to put all their eggs in the Kang basket. It's a cool concept. I don't think it's a 20-year commitment. Because it seemed like they wanted to stretch the whole Kang thing out for as long as they could. Like they could have done it, but they probably should have done what they should have done initially and had different variations of Kang, not just one dude playing every single version.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you see the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp, though, which spoilers, Kang is the big baddie in that, and then you get to see all the different variants of Kang, which, yeah, I'm curious as to how they're going to land it, because the end of that story is the end of Loki season 1, with all of the Kangs gone, and it's just he who remains. So we know how the story ends. It would just very much be a story of how do we get there, which you're part
maybe
of.
I missed that. So Loki is after the Kang dynasty.
Well, the end of season 1, you had basically had a choice. Him and his alternate Sylvia killing the I forgot the dude's name.
So he who remains, you had the option of, I say you, Loki and Sylvie, yes, thank you. Loki and Sylvie had two choices. One was to let he who remains live and continue ruling over all of time and space, because he was the one that emerged out of the Kang War, and he had basically taken everything down to a single timeline. Everything was perfect. Everything was being pruned to make sure that this timeline would move forward and it was good to go. Or they could kill he who remains, and then the battle of the Kangs would start all over again, and it would just be, he had no idea what would happen. It would be chaos, basically. And then you have the different sprouts of all the timelines. The multiverse gets repopulated, all of that. And they chose to kill him. By they, I mean Sylvie.
Perfect, because now you got an entire series that has no villain, no story going forward, and round of applause for Team Marvel on this one.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily blame Marvel for this. The character is still there. The storylines are still set up.
It's the fact that they're going scorched earth when they could easily just replace the actor. Kang is a multiverse character. Just because he's from one dimension doesn't mean he looks the exact same as another. Look at Loki.
This is true.
Different versions that didn't look like Tom Hiddleston.
This is true, and they're definitely going to have to replace him. But what with all the controversy around Majors as a person and Kang being tied to him, I have a feeling it's going to be more of a let's simmer this character down, let him sit on the back burner for a few years, 3, 5, whatever it's going to be, and then they'll bring him back into the limelight. That's a terrible plan. I hate it.
We're gonna pack that in a little box. We're gonna throw that in the fucking ocean. You know who we're gonna do? Annihilus.
That's a plan that I love, and I honestly thought that's where we were going.
I thought that's what they were originally gonna do too.
Ages ago.
I didn't think they were gonna do Kang after Thanos. I thought they were going to do Annihilus, which would have been awesome.
But the problem with Annihilus is that, again, if you're following that whole timeline there's a lot of characters that are involved. Off the top of my head, Galactus and Silver Surfer they just got at the time, so they couldn't do
that's true.
So what
you're talking about whole different characters. Now, of course, they could change it because we already see what the MCU did with Civil War and the regular lineup. Because again, there was a lot of folks that were still part of the Fox. That were part of the Fox universe of the X-Men, whatever, that were part of that Civil War, at least on that part. I mean,
well, it just seems like Marvel's been doing they've been doing a lot of missteps since the end of the Thanos era, essentially. Like, Shang-Chi was an okay movie. It was an interesting set of characters. Didn't push the plot forward.
Shang-Chi was just an okay movie.
Listen, that's coming from someone who loves kung fu movies. I didn't really like it. I thought it was kind of meh. It would have been better if they didn't have the giant CG battle at the end, and it was more straight kung fu fighting with ninjas or the like. I would have been happy with that.
And that's what I was going to say. If you take the last 15 minutes of the movie out, you have a very top tier kung fu movie, especially with the scaffolding battle in the middle of the movie.
The last 15 minutes ruined that because that was the culmination of that entire fight. and I thought the fight between the Mandarin and Shang-Chi was kind of mid.
It wasn't the best, that's fair, but like it definitely didn't detract enough from the movie that it's just a meh film or just okay. It was pretty
I don't know, dude.
fantastic.
Most of the modern Marvel films for me have just been kind of like meh, like one watch and done. Like the original stuff I've watched multiple times, but like the newer stuff I've only seen Shang-Chi once. Multiverse of Madness was kind of dumb, which is weird because I don't know how you get Sam Raimi to direct it, and it felt like that movie needed a hard R, and it was skirting it the entire time, and it needed it to finish it off. Like that movie needed an R rating.
Yeah, it was being saved for Blade, which I'm
Yeah,
not entirely upset by.
I kind of am because they keep fucking shelving Blade. Like they allege 2024. I doubt it's gonna come out in 2020 or 2025. I doubt it. I highly doubt it.
Well, it's 2025 because they had to rewrite the script a
Yeah,
couple times, I believe, and then the SAG strike.
yeah, but
So it makes sense why it got pushed
I
back.
get why it got pushed back. I don't believe that movie will come out until I see a fucking trailer with a release date. What else was there? A bunch of TV shows that were hit or miss.
Ant-Man and the Wasp,
Meh.
Spider-Man No Way Home.
I'm
Uh,
counting
Good film.
Spider-Man on its own thing because the Sony's doing good job with the licenses. Minus
Yeah, wait, hold on. Back that one up though, because Sony is only doing good, and
with
I'll
Spider-Man.
defend as far as Spider-Man only because they brought in Kevin Feige and they made that deal,
Yeah,
whatever. Because after Spider-Man 3, when they brought in Topher in for Venom, don't know why, but hey, that's what Sammy Raimi wants to do. They're already at the doorstep to go to Marvel and say, hey, here you go until they release the Miles Morales Spider-Man. Once they gain money, then they're like, oh no, give it back to us.
mm-hmm.
We're not gonna
Yeah,
we're
and
not
then
gonna do
they
this, and we'll start
they
making a
they
deal.
sat on their asses when they could have got Donald Glover as Miles Morales. That was a fucking
well,
misstep.
even then, he's always been too old for that role. I mean, I think
Yeah,
he'd do great as it,
I
but
don't know.
being the Prowler is still a solid role
He's
for
been
him
the
there.
Prowler once. He's never coming back.
Yeah, hey, we can hope. Did you guys, speaking of Sony's Marvel uh, franchises, did you know that Along Came a Spider trailer was coming out?
Is that the
yeah, that's not
Is that the Madam
Venom
Web one?
3. No, so there's the Madam Web trailers
more.
out, but also Venom 3 Along Came a Spider. That trailer dropped. And like I was watching the trailer and then I saw Tom Holland appear in it. And I was like, oh, like so this is a fan trailer. I just don't remember these scenes from the previous films. And then I looked into it a little more. I'm like, oh no, this is the legit film. I'm kind of excited for this.
Hold
It
on.
looked like
So
a
you guys
really
keep
great
talking.
trailer.
I'm gonna take a look at this.
That's excellent podcasting. All
No,
right.
that's fine. Well, y'all don't give a shit about what I'm saying anyway, so it's
This
fine.
just in. Gonna do trailer now.
But there was also Thor: Love and Thunder,
Which was kind of
which
ass.
Hold on, you said Along Came a Spider?
Yeah, Along
yeah,
Came a
Venom 3
Spider.
Along Came a Spider. Uh, so Thor: Love and Thunder was fun, but the only problem was Christian Bale did not want to get just jacked for the film and become a like physically demanding character to
Yeah, but I thought
oppose
he
Thor
was the best
because
part of
Chris
the
Hemsworth
movie,
was
though.
already he was for sure. So like he wanted to be different from Chris Hemsworth, which I thought was cool. That made sense. But his name was Gore, correct?
Yeah, Gore the
Yes,
God
of
Yeah,
Slayer.
course.
yeah. The I thought he did a really good job
Hold on, was
with
that
just
toxic?
being
Did I
yes,
just see? Ooh,
yes, you did.
ooh. Okay.
And so I thought he was gonna have a really, really dark role in that film because that's how they made it seem. And I really appreciated the black and white whenever he was on screen to really show that, he was in the darkness. He was everything that you were scared of, right? And so I loved his character. I thought it was really great. But they tried instead to really lean into the humorous side of Thor that we got from Thor Ragnarok, which is great because it was different and refreshing, and they just went way too far in the opposite direction, and they took the coolest fresh character that came to the franchise in quite a while in Gore, and they just like put him off to the side and they focused on Thor's humor and Jane being Thor V2, which was cool, but I just thought that was the real miss of that film.
Yeah, and that's like that's the thing with it. I think there's actually a deleted scene with Christian Bale when he's playing Gore that gives life to his character. Because again, if you go to the comic books, I mean, he wrecks everybody coming through, and by the time Thor's coming on the scene, he's just playing catch up. Like not all the enemies, all the guys are getting killed. They're trying to figure out what's going on. Um, but I also feel that's Tiki Waititi's style where he went too humorous with it. I don't think
Mm.
Jane should have been involved in it at all. It's great that they had her in it. I mean, you could have made her role, but I mean, yeah, for what they just had Thor come in as a one villain, one trait villain, and then just toss him out, and that was it.
Mm.
And even if they had gone that route, I would have been okay with it if he was just a one and done villain. Had they made him the center of the film's focus, like you have with Thanos in Infinity War, he is very much, especially in the latter half of that film, the main character of the movie. We're watching his story, and we get to watch the heroes win at the end of the day in Endgame, right? Which was a lot of fun as well. But they really focused on Thanos and kind of got you to rally behind the character. You're still kind of like, I'm not gonna be cool with you snapping your finger and killing half of everybody, but you
Mhm.
you you sympathize at least with the character because they gave him so much screen time, but they didn't give that same treatment to Gore, so we just didn't have that same depth and understanding and wanting to see more of him on screen and really dive into his character.
That seems fair.
Well, and to give Daniels credit too, there was that build up towards him. They knew of him almost every film, not every film, but at least majority of them has some type of tie-in to Thanos, to where it's either by reputation, you already knew that he was coming and he was going to wreck whatever he was going to wreck, based on his own mission, what he felt was right. Even though I feel that if they'd involved Mistress Death in it, would change people's mind, because he went from, hey, this is I'm trying to save resources and everything's going crazy, to like, no, I want to court this, I want to court death, and the easiest way to do that is kill all you guys. So let me just go ahead and do that. If they went that route, I don't think nobody would have any sympathy for Thanos, even if that was a character. But Gore, there was no build up at all. I
Mm.
mean, so again, you're bringing a Thanos level threat, maybe even more, because again, he has a necro sword. He has the same powers as the symbiote god. I think his name is Kroll on that part. So I mean, you have that level of threat that you go there, and I'm gonna segue that to Annihilus. If you do the same thing what they did to him to Annihilus, if you brought him into MCU to replace Kane, then you're gonna have issues on that one, because that was a build up on it. I mean, and now they showed that, hey, even those ones, the superheroes that went against them, like, he decimated like it was nothing. Like, give me your powers and that's it. Like, so if you make it to where it's he just come in and they just do one thing and then he's done, man, it's just a one and done villain.
Well, then who could they get to replace Kang? Like that's the biggest thing. The only thing I
What
can think
I
of is
what I
maybe
heard is
Galactus and
Doctor Doom.
Doom would be cool. I do like me some Doctor Doom.
Because you have Jonathan Hickman's Doctor Doom that um, right now is like really good on the part where he becomes God Doom. And I'm paraphrasing, where basically he rewrites the universe after they kill all the universes. He rewrites the universe to where everything's kind of the way he views it, and everybody's trying to play catch up on that part.
Could be interesting. I
So
mean, Doctor Doom would be a kind of a really cool character to use as a main villain because he's more behind the shadows until it's doom and gloom. No pun intended.
Mhm.
so I think rushing in Doctor Doom is not a great plan because they're going to have to introduce him in the Fantastic Four and then immediately turn around and have him be the big bad of Avengers 5. And that's just not a good plan.
No, it's fine because they got
So,
Avengers 5 and Avengers 6 to deal with it.
Well, I mean, they could do it to where they introduce him in Avengers 5, but he's not the villain that they're going against. Like, and it's in a way, it's just like with
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians of the Galaxy, where you had Ronin, even though the comic book he had more of a pivotal role. They had him as the main bad guy, but really he was just a pawn that Thanos used for that one. So that was your connection. So I'm willing to bet. that you could have somebody in there to be that pawn for Doctor Doom, and that's when you start hearing some of the things.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
I wish. Go ahead.
I was under the assumption, at least in my head canon, that it was going to be Fantastic Four comes in, they get introduced. That's probably going to be at least a stepping stone to let us know that Galactus is out there, so we start getting the galactic big bads, and then we can work our way up to Annihilus. Probably either just mention Doctor Doom or maybe give us a small teaser with Doom appearing in the end credit scene, and then that
Mhm.
would kind of be it for then. And when we roll to Avengers 6 Secret Wars, that's when we're going to have Doom take more of a prevalent role, so
Mhm.
that way you kind of have Doom and the Beyonders as the two primary antagonists of that film, and that could then lead into Avengers 7 or the next Fantastic Four movie, whatever they want to happen, where Doom becomes the main focus point as the bad guy, and they really string it out to give him that introduction he deserves.
Are they still gonna do the Secret War though?
They better.
Yeah,
That's
it was
not
leaked.
that's not dependent on Kang,
That's
so I don't see
true.
why they
Yeah,
wouldn't.
but right now with the, I think there was a leak with I don't know if it was Sony or something. I know that there was a couple other projects that were announced. I know 1602, 1602, I believe. It's supposed to be making into a series. I don't know if it's an anime series or not. So that's the one
Oh, that'd be
where.
cool. 1602 was an interesting concept.
But that's what I was joking on Twitter, saying that Captain America. That's how they're gonna get Chris Evans to come back. Because the whole point of that one, I mean, it's a spoiler alert where you find out like, yeah, Captain America got shot, but then got sent back and all that mess. So I really believe the MCU can figure it out between Kevin Feige and whoever's going to be there. It's just a matter on how they're going to lay it out because I mean, Kang was a pivotal character to where we saw how he was with Ant Man and the
Oh, that was
Quantumanium,
that was the
but
whole reason why I was
he
waiting
was
for
only
that
going to
main
get
fight
bigger
because
and
he was brutal. Like when he's beating the
oh yeah,
shit out of Paul Rudd,
and
like that was like okay,
and I
that's
think
that dude looks like he could take on the Avengers.
yeah, because I think he did the role either be after. I don't think he did it between, but I think he did it after the Creed film.
Mm-hmm.
So he
He
was already bulking
also
up for that.
Yeah, he had booked up for Creed, and then he also has another film that's coming out, Magazine Dreams, which is a bodybuilding film with him as the main character. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, he's definitely jacked all the way through for Ant-Man and the Wasp preparing for the next film.
I'm still waiting for Chris Hemsworth's Hulk Hogan biopic because that was the whole reason why he looked so ripped for Thor: Love and Thunder, and I still haven't seen him with the fucking meat curtains. So I'm waiting. I'm waiting.
That's fair. But the one thing I will say on Marvel is I don't think that they're really having such a bad go of this latest phase as everybody seems to think they do. The movie's built up in box office dollars and people really enjoying the films and giving them the high ratings because we got to meet and grow with these characters. And so you became more invested and you wanted to spend time in that universe with those characters that you fell in love with. Now that they're gone, they're having to build it all back up again from ground zero. So their failures are like a 3 to 500 million dollar film at the box office.
I
It's
got
not
you.
as bad as everybody makes it out to seem.
It's like being in a marriage for like 20 years and then your spouse just kind of like pieces it and then you just go on a straight nothing but hookers and blow. So like yeah, it's not going to be as good as the long-standing thing, but hey, at least it's something.
You might want
Cuz
to
if
start at OK Cupid. That seems a little bit extreme.
Yeah.
Well, no, just because it feels like it's so scattershot with everything. Like there's no real like connecting tissue between the movies. The writing has been some okay, some mid as fuck. Like I would like it if they had good writers again.
Are we pretending like Marvel movies have good writing now?
Well, they better than they have been. Listen, corny as fuck, sure, but at least there was a story. Some of these are like the story is my 5-year-old or my 7-year-old could write better stories.
So you say that, but I do remember our conversation where we were talking about Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which I love that series.
Hated
And
that
you, on the other
series.
hand, were like, "No, I can't believe it. The atrocities. I hate it. Get it out of my face." And I'm like,
First off, I
"Oh,
didn't use the British voice, and second off, the only good thing that came out of that was Elaine Bennett and Kurt Russell's son as the U.S. agent.
It
That
was
was really
a
it.
buddy cop series with superpowers. How can you not love it?
yeah."
It was fantastic.
I was bored as shit.
With underlying stories for both characters on that one, and it introduced you to another version of Captain America, even though he got messed up on with Isaiah Bradley. So I mean,
That's a character I'm really excited for them to dive more into.
I doubt
I
they
don't.
who
will.
you who
No, they will
get Denzel
because
Washington to
his
play him? I'm joking.
yeah, his grandson is the Young Avengers. He's the Captain America role for that team, and so they're gonna have to introduce that character and use his backstory in order to help fill in the gaps of how he has these superpowers and why he's gonna have the drive and determination and everything else to go along with that character role. So yeah, I'm excited once that series kicks off for them to dive more into Isaiah's character.
Nico's like, "Nah."
Man, I don't give a shit anymore. I got out at Thanos. I catch him if I catch him. It's like nothing's really pulled me in. I got burnt on Doctor Strange because Doctor Strange is one of my favorite Marvel characters, and I just felt that movie just sucked. It had the right director, it had the right things going for it, and it. How do you make Doctor Strange the secondary or third character in your Doctor Strange story? Like, come on. Like, had they just called it America Chavez the movie, I would have been cool with it. Or if they called it like, what the fuck's her name? Like the Scarlet Witch the movie, I would have been cool with that. And then you have, Doctor Strange off on the side. But no, it was Doctor Strange movie, and he was like the third character. He was the third.
I'd say
Yeah,
second at worst.
Look at it as this: that he went away, and so why would you bring him back? I guess the way I looked at it is, why would you bring him back and then replace Wong and everything else like this? It's him coming back and trying to get back to the daily routine of what he was doing, and he can't do that. And that's one thing that in a way, that's one thing he had to do. He had to play second fiddle to everybody else, and he had to learn too. It's not about just him; it's about the Chavez and about stopping Wanda because it's a bigger threat. And if they don't, that's what happens. That's why, in a way, I wish they would make a movie. I don't know if you guys ever read the original Sin in Marvel. So what?
Yep.
So the basis of it is just you have Nick Fury. The Watcher dies. Nobody knows how the Watcher dies. Everybody's surprised the Watcher was killed because they didn't know. This is before Red Hawk punched him and stuff like that. So essentially, they find out that it's Nick Fury. Nick Fury is basically the man on the wall and trying to recruit somebody to take his job. And that's one thing that he told Doctor Strange was that, if you would do your damn job, I wouldn't be going around and killing people because there's like a big murder mystery on who's killing all these beings. All of them, I think, are bad. They just don't know who's doing it. And come to find out, Nick Fury's been doing this whole time frame, which was great because I think at the end of that one, I think the Winter Soldier is the one who wins to be the candidate, even though Frank Castle wanted to be the man on the wall. But he's crazy.
Yeah, you can't really pick Frank for that position. It's not going to end well.
But it was great to see who's pointing fingers because, again, Nick, every time somebody would say something, Nick Fury was like, yeah, but you didn't do this, and this would have led to this. Like, if I didn't do this, especially with Doctor Strange, like, if you didn't do this, if I didn't do this, this would have had worse repercussions than you ever thought of on that part. But I don't know, for the series for MCU, I think they do a pretty decent job. I just think I would agree on a certain extent where there's some stories that are not relatable, but then I also feel like it's not made for me in a way. It's made for somebody else that views that character a certain way. So
see, I don't care if the character is not made for me. I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with the fact
you hate women. That's what it is.
Oh yeah, no, totally. That's exactly the reason. No, I hate the fact that like most of these stories have no connecting tissues to the overall plot line. Or if they do, it's a 5-second blurb at the end of it. So it's like, I think that's what I preferred more about the initial series, because the first couple movies leading up didn't really have anything to do with it, but then it started like slowly trickling in, and it worked because it was paced really well. The problem with the new stuff is we had like what last year 4 TV shows and 5 movies, or flip that. I don't know. It was too much.
And I firmly believe that they were all fucking amazing, and I wish they would continue doing it. But
That's fair.
the problem, you don't want all the movies to be super interconnected and to be pushing the plot forward. That's most of the reason why people have Marvel fatigue, is because you need to watch 20 films to know what's going to happen in the latest film coming up, so you're not super confused about it. It's the whole reason why the Marvels feel so disjointed when you get around to watching that movie. Is it's kind of nice because it feels smaller and more self-contained between the three characters, but they started getting so much backlash about everything that's been happening in the latest phase, and the fact that everything is so connected, and people just don't want to have to do their homework anymore to watch a Marvel movie, that you can very clearly see in the film where they were in the editing room like, "Oh, we can take this out, we can take this out, we can take that out," and just smush it together, and it's awkward, and it changes the pacing of the film, and it changes the overall experience, because you can feel where it's disjointed at the story, and where it feels like it was a very natural place for this to interject more into the overall timeline to show you where we're at in this particular phase of the Marvel project and the films. But because they were so scared of people not coming to see the movie because they didn't know what was happening, it forced them to go that route. And that's going to continue to be a thing. And that's a lot of the issues that Marvel has right now, is trying to find that balance of, here's this new great group of characters that you can get to know and you can grow with, without also having to bring all of the baggage that has come before this to keep you interested in the story and understanding where they need to be.
Yeah, I'm still gonna be a contrarian cunt and say I don't care anymore.
That's not contrarian. That's just you agreeing that you have Marvel fatigue.
Oh, okay. Well then, yeah, I have Marvel fatigue. That's one way to put it. I have shitty
But
story fatigue, if that helps.
but you just said that you don't care anymore because you don't want to have to keep up with all that. But then you're saying that you want these stories to be more interconnected and bigger, and push the story forward overall for the
I would
entirety of the
prefer
franchise.
that, but that's because I'm a psychopath.
But you would have to care.
Yeah, that's
You're
why I
trying to get
stopped
on at the
caring.
second stop of the train, but you're not
No,
there.
no,
There's a
I got on it the
disconnect.
first, didn't like it, jumped off the train, and now I'm running up to the second part, like the second stop, complaining the entire way.
No, you left the second stop, ran up the subway steps, and now you're sprinting across town to get to the third stop to hop back on. And you're mad that they didn't want to bring all the rest of the baggage with them.
Well, yeah.
All this fighting is tearing us apart. That's all I want to say.
Shut up.
This is what makes us stronger.
This is what... Okay, well, to get off shitty Marvel movies,
Let's talk about my favorite fan casting that I saw all week, which was making Alan Richardson
Batman.
Bruce Wayne in
Yes.
the new DC
No,
films.
So my
no.
buddy at work has a theory that Thad from Blue Mountain State literally just got jacked and became a good actor just so he could become Batman. And I'm starting to think that that might be true.
Nah.
What do you mean? Nah, he's got the
No,
jawline.
he's got the look of Batman.
He's got the build.
He's what Affleck Batman should have been.
No, I liked
No, no.
Affleck
No,
Batman.
don't get me wrong,
I
I
think
like Affleck
Affleck
Batman
Batman
too.
should have had more empty whiskey bottles and cigarette butts laying all around the Batcave.
He is the goddamn Batman.
I don't know. I don't see unless they try to do a version. Unless they try to do the version that Affleck was doing, far as I thought it was like the Batman animated series Bruce Wayne. Then I can probably see Richardson like that. But right now, no, I don't see him like that.
I mean,
Especially with a bad dye job, because he's gonna have to dye his hair black.
I'm sure they can figure out the color matching,
Yeah.
but
All right.
also, like, that was
The same
pretty much
studio
the
that brought you
only.
Suicide Squads. No,
That was like
There
the
were two
only good
Suicide
part
Squad
about the
movies?
Snyderverse.
Huh?
I thought there was just the one that James Gunn did. What do you mean
There's
two?
two.
Yeah, what do you mean there's two?
Yeah, there
Yeah.
was a really great one that was led by Joel McKinnon just to start it all off.
Yeah, and he had the shark, and Sylvester Stallone was the shark. It was a great movie.
Yeah,
Idris
excellent
Elba was
film.
in it. It was great. What's this like? You're saying there was a second one or a first one? Like
Yeah, that one was a better one with Will Smith playing Deathshot, who's
Ooh.
playing Will Smith.
Oh, he didn't slap anybody, sadly.
Exactly.
Well, he did tap Diablo's face, go like, "Hey, hey, get it started." I'm like, "No, dude."
Yeah, it's amazing how you could do the same movie and half a second would just be so much more better. Like the character development was a lot better in the I guess remake, redo. We'll call it a redo.
It was
But
a,
David Ayer is
it
still
was a,
saying
it
that
was
his
it was a
cut is still
requel.
out there.
It was a
And it's
requel.
better.
Yeah, there you go. It was a requel. I
Yeah.
thought it was a good requel.
It was, and we got introduced to Peacemaker, which was fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So aside from that, have you guys heard that E3 is now officially dead?
Yes.
I didn't know it was still a thing. I assumed it died with COVID.
Yeah, apparently it was. But now it is actually dead. Like it is no longer coming back. So I don't know. I up until everybody started doing their own like Nintendo Directs. I know Nintendo's the one that kind of started that, but now that everybody's kind of doing their own thing similar to that, we don't really need E3. Because now you could just be like a good example is Capcom just put out that, hey, Dragon's Dogma 2 will be out in, I think it's March 25th. It's like, instead of having to wait for E3 to say that, they just did a little video, say, hey, here's 10 minutes gameplay, game's out soon. Go pre-order it if you want. And
Yeah,
I kind of prefer that in a way. Because like E3 was fun, but the past couple of years when it actually happened, there hasn't been anything of real substance.
Well, the progression of getting information out there has changed, and then unfortunately with E3, it's one of those things where people, at least from the corporation standpoint, is like, why do I need this singular event to put all my stuff out? I can create my own event. I can create my own stream and have everybody come here
Mm-hmm.
and garner viewership on that one. And if at the very least you can do something at like San Diego Comic Con to kind of get little teaser trailers out there to promote what you're gonna do on your event on that one. Because I think PlayStation did that too.
Well,
At least
PlayStation has
one
their
year they
state
only
of
showed a
play
little bit
thing
of
that they
E3.
do.
Then they were like, "Hey, we'll show more at our showroom or something like that." I mean, unfortunately, again, it's the progression of what it is with getting stuff out there now, where they don't need to be an E3 to reach everybody on
Yeah.
that part.
Yeah, so that's kind of the last little thing I saw. But yeah, all right, let's get into Gantz and get this podcast over with in like 20 minutes.
Yeah, there's a lot that happens, but there's not a lot that happens
Yeah.
in this section of the manga,
Yeah.
which is so strange because I felt like it went on forever, but also at the same time, like I don't feel like anything happened, but it did, but it didn't.
Well,
And
a
then
lot
this,
happened actually,
uh,
but it happened at a breakneck speed.
yeah, but then it, I hated the pacing of this time. But okay, we can talk about it. Who wants to go ahead and give us just a quick recap of what's happened so far?
Well, I mean, we just did this a week ago, but fair. Group of people get sent into a room, told, hey, go kill aliens, and they go kill aliens. If they die, they die. So if you die in the game, you die in real life, as Frankie Muniz once said. And
Except you can revive in the game and in real life.
exactly. Yeah, the last mission we did was was kind of like what would have ended most series. This was the halfway point. So team got strong. They got their whole Avenger moment. They took out the big bad, and then Kay ended up going free. Everybody else revived like different people for him, and then we got introduced to the vampires, and then we got introduced to a dead K. So K's dead again.
Well, no, we didn't talk about that.
Yeah, we did.
No.
Didn't we?
No, we talked about the decisions they made. That's where we left it.
Oh, then spoiler alert. Who
Yeah,
wants to
big
pick up on
spoiler
that?
alert. All right. So, yeah, really the interludes between these two missions, there's two big points. It's Zumi's fight for his life and Kay's battle. And so we see that the vampires were given all of the names and addresses of the Gantz team by a reporter. I believe it was a couple months back.
No. He gave what's his name? Ken. Oh shit, he's one of my favorite characters.
He gave Azuma's information first, and then
No, he just gave Azumi's information. They had found K's information just because
On
they
their
had
own.
pictures
Okay,
of
that's
him.
fair.
But
Yeah,
I think
and-
they found it out from his brother.
Yeah, because it was Akira's brother.
Because they were like, "Hey, ain't this your brother?" Because they showed a picture of him on the thing.
Yeah, and then Akira starts messaging Kay, telling him, "Hey, they're coming to kill you. You need to get out." And Kay, having been revived by Gantz and having no memories, is wondering why the hell his brother's trying to talk to him, basically. And that's when he tells him that they're gonna try to kill you tomorrow. And we start seeing the vampires attacking Izumi in the subway train.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, he was wearing his suit and just pulls out a katana and slices the entire train car in half, which was a dope scene.
I love how that whole time Nishi's like, "Man, this is my off day. You deal with this."
Yeah.
And the other thing that was cool is he pulled out his sword and chopped the train in half. And at first, I was like, where the hell did he get that strength from? Because he wasn't wearing gloves. And so this was the first part in the series where we get to see that even if you're not wearing the entire suit, it still works and it's still powered on for you. And so they can kind of wear it in public and remain more anonymous and not look like weirdos wearing skin tight gloves all day. So that was pretty cool. And also explains why uh the chin piece that kind of like overlays and has the two metal rings underneath your chin, how that gets tucked in everybody's shirt and they're wearing the suit all day and it still protects them. So that helped the story quite a bit, I felt.
Yeah, we get a lot of like world building in here, like where it actually like he fleshes out kind of the events and how shit actually works.
Yeah, and they mention Izumi and Nishi mention the American, the German, and the Italian Gantz teams.
Yep.
So we also get confirmation that
That
it's
there
not
are
just
other
this group of
teams.
people. Yeah, and so it was a nice little foreshadowing of what was to come. And Izumi runs up to the street, and that's when he finds just hordes and hordes of vampires staring at him, and Sakato and Cherry, they find out that he's about to die.
Yeah, because
and
Nishi called Cherry.
Yeah, and Sakato's like, no, it's or Sakurai, sorry. He's like, no, it's his time to die. Didn't you realize he was
the one
the
who shot up
Shinjuku murderer? Yeah, and they just both resign. It's like, yep, okay, yeah, he can die. That's fine.
I will say this: there's a really cool callback to Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the original movie, in this issue. So
There were no hot dogs.
Hold on. If you looked at the host, I'll call him Host Samurai because I can't remember his name, but in his team there was the older dude who looked like Rutger Hauer. Just saying, it was a little bit of a callback because that was definitely Rutger Hauer.
That's a bit of a stretch.
I love
I'm gonna have to go back and look.
So.
I don't remember seeing that one.
Yeah, he was the only old dude on the team, and he was like, "Man, that looks exactly like Rutger Hauer."
Yeah, because he gets sliced. He gets sliced up with the guy with the glasses. Yeah.
Yep.
Want to do that part.
So, what did you guys think? Did you assume Izumi was gonna live the first time you read through this?
Oh, I knew he was gonna die.
I
could
did
not have killed him. You know what I mean? Like he had to die.
See, I assumed he was going to stick around for a while because he was a great foil to Kay. And now that he was gone, it was going to be like a battle for supremacy between him and Kato on the team.
But there
So I
wouldn't.
was actually looking forward to that.
Yeah, but you wouldn't really need that because at this point, he is no longer part of the Gantz team.
Yeah, and that's why they're replacing him with Kato or Kato.
Mm.
And so you had him and Azumi as the main characters driving the plot forward. What about you, Rico?
Well, the one thing that I I would say I didn't like was when they revealed that Zumi was the killer. Like they never said how he came to that. I mean, it would be great if it was something like he somehow read his mind.
They alluded to it in his when they were like it is almost like Sakurai scanned him at some point and like noticed that there were similarities.
During the massacre, you can actually see the panels
Yeah.
where he's going into his brain and you can see him getting through the layers. And then they had a callback to that same
Mm-hmm.
sequence later
Mhm.
on, like when he and Cherry were discussing it. And so they did actually set it up decently well, unlike most things in the
Okay.
series, where there was a legit callback that seemed plausible.
Okay. I'll go back and see that one. But that one, at first, I was like they just said it. It felt like they just said it, and it was like that was it. That's how you guys detected it on that part. As far as what I can see on that one, as far as Kai and his memories, at least with his character going through, I kind of see how he was getting his memories back, or at least he wanted to fill those gaps, like Izumi.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the one thing with Izumi's death that I didn't like is that when they introduced, I forgot what the character was, when she came in and he did like a sacrifice. Do you
Oh, his
feel
fake
like,
girlfriend.
yeah, did you feel like that was a redemption on that part? Like he at
No.
least, I mean, him himself, he was like, yeah, what am I doing? He just took
So,
the hit.
so you're gonna see this a few times with real shitty characters who have a minor redemption arc, but they still deserve every ounce of shit that comes their way. But no, I don't. I think it was more like him kind of becoming human again in a sense. I wouldn't call it a redemption. I think he was still like a garbage human being who deserved what happened, but it was it was a nice little send off for his character that made me hate him a little less.
Do you feel Nishi? What about Nishi though? Because I mean, even though he didn't help him out, you
We
see him later on. We'll see him later on where he's kind of like filling that void where I felt like if Izumi was there, even though Izumi probably would have been a little bit more of a cleaner attitude than Nishi, and Nishi's filling that role right now of
so
kind of an
the thing
antagonist.
with Nishi is really young because he's the youngest on the team because he's in middle school, right?
Middle schooler, yeah.
He's the
Yeah,
youngest on the team. He has narcissistic and
excluding the
psychopathic
kid.
tendencies. Yeah, assuming excluding Takeshi. He has
Independent.
narcissistic and psychopathic tendencies. Like dude's a total sociopath. But he still has reasons for being there. Like
I mean, I hated his classmates too. So yeah, I get it.
God, right?
Yo, that's
Well,
one of that's
again, Oku writing in characters that make you just so happy that they get killed. This
Um,
time he managed to do it with a classroom of kids. Like holy shit.
he did. It was great. Uh, I thought the battle between Izumi and all the vampires was one of the better plotted battles that we've
Mm.
seen in a while, which was nice. It felt like he spent a lot of time on that and the battle that immediately follows it. Not so much on the next mission though, but very much wanted to use the time between the missions to really build the series and show what it could be.
Mm-hmm. And so I guess we're getting into the next part. So Kay gets a call from Kikuchi, who is the reporter, and
Well, we should probably also say Azumi died. He very much got his shit
I
kicked in.
thought that was I didn't know that we had to actually fully spell that out.
It was implied, but
Okay,
might
yeah,
as
no,
well.
he did. Okay, now let's go to a good character. So Kay gets a call from Akira, kind of being like, "Yo, your buddy's dead, and they're coming for you next." you need to prepare. So Kay being like, well, there might be something to this. He goes down to an electric. He goes down to like probably I think it was like Shinjuku or something. Goes to an electronics store, starts buying UV lights, and starts setting up Home Alone in his apartment.
I thought it was Home Alone meets Blade 2.
Pretty much, yeah. And then he gets in contact with Kikuchi, who's the reporter, and he gets some police presence at his house because he thinks something's gonna happen. And oh, does something happen?
Yeah, those vampires just instantly murked all the police standing outside.
Mm-hmm.
Shocking, I know. And then they break in, and he has these gadgets MacGyvered around his room, like the light bulbs just instantly incinerating all the vampires. And then the UV light tube that's being
That was
powered
such a
by a
good
car battery.
idea. That was
I
such a good
loved
idea.
it.
Although we do have to
And
mention he did finally decide to call one of the numbers on his phone, and he decided to call Reika. And that's when he said, I think I'm going to be attacked. And she said, we'll get the team together. And that's when Kay realizes I was the leader of the Gantz team. And he started
well,
getting a little bit of his confidence back.
it started to come back to him, and the adrenaline of the situation as he was killing the vampires, by the time he's outside of the apartment and fighting them on the street, you can see it finally clicked, and he starts to get those memories back,
Mm-hmm.
which was nice because that also helped show how Azumi's memories were triggered after he had
Mm-hmm.
his memory erased and he went back to just a regular life, and why it started eating away at him, because you got to see that same trigger happen in K. And I wondered, had he not died at the end of the sequence, if he would start to fall into madness like Azumi did and start to
Mm.
crave that battle and that action and the world that he no longer has access to. I thought that would have been a really fun direction to take the character.
Yeah, that would have been that would have been interesting. But
I
unfortunately,
mean,
that's not what happened because host Samurai kills him.
Yeah, team got there just not in time.
Yep.
yeah.
So that was the end of K, and
Well, hold
then
on. You missed something too. The
mm,
reason why he got killed, because I mean, initially when he was going during the battle, he was doing great, but then they showed that Post Samurai had killed his brother and
oh
held
yeah,
his
he
head up there,
decapitated Akira.
which I didn't. I thought this is there'd be a point where where it was gonna be like brother versus brother, like you and your brother
Yeah.
arguing. I figured it'd have been something like that going down the pipeline, but that's one thing I thought was like, man, they really just didn't want to give his brother a chance. Just said, hey, he ratted us out, he's done, and then that's it. Um, one question though, the female that was with
Mm-hmm.
Post Samurai
That was the one
was
that
that
Akira tried to save.
safe? Okay,
Yep,
I
that was
wasn't too
her.
sure about that one. I thought they just killed her off, but then when I saw her, I was like, okay, on that part. Um, going back to Hunter's point, I do. That's one thing. At least I was glad that in my notes you said it was the stark similarities when it comes to Izumi and Kai getting their memories back. Because that was one thing I always thought about was when you get your memory wiped, what do you do with all the What do you do with all the information when you get there? At least with Kai, he saw the photos, and then with Kojima, it was the same thing. Like I have all this stuff here, and then it's like, what the heck is going on? I really felt that even though your memory is wiped, your mind has this tendency to try to fill in the gaps on
Mm-hmm.
everything. So it'd have been cool, yeah, if he would have went to the dark side of that and came up with something else, and then it was just a result of being in the games and stuff. That one.
I also thought that it was really great the way that they ended Kay's death sequence with the team getting transferred for the next mission
Mm-hmm.
and
Mhm.
them introducing the concept of holding on to someone
Yes.
Yes.
and
Yes.
being able to transfer them back, and that because in this battle Gramps was direly hurt and or dead. I believe the insinuation was supposed to be that he died,
Mm-hmm.
and because they grabbed him and brought him back to the room as part of the transfer, his DNA got resequenced and he was part of the transfer, and so he came back to life. And Reika tried to grab Kay to bring him back, but the host samurai had grabbed onto one of the team members before they transferred, so he went up, and then his familiar had pulled Reika off
Mm-hmm.
of Kay, and so they got transferred up. and now the villains are also part of the team. But what I don't appreciate is they know that that is a viable strategy in order to bring people back to life and bring them back to the team based on that experience. But later on for our next podcast, it's just forgotten. It's like a super OP technique, and everybody just seems to have dropped it from their brains at multiple points during the the next arc. And I thought that was really annoying.
So I want to say put a pin in that, but I think the reason why is because again
It's
everything's
OP as shit.
changed. Well, it's OP as shit, but everything's changed again. Like they weren't really given time going, unless I'm misremembering something here. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But we have the team with I think there wasn't anybody new this time around except for the two vampires,
Just
right?
the vampires.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so they have a little scuffle in the room, find out they can't kill each other.
Yeah.
And then
Which was strange that they can't kill each other because we see Nishi kill people prior to this because one of the new recruits that got sent to the room pointed the gun at him and tried
No
to pull the
suit.
trigger, and so he blew the dude's head off.
no suit.
But the vampires weren't wearing a suit either.
I just thought
Plot hole.
I thought it was because the whole action scene, basically they were going back and forth, missing each other, and then it finally was like, okay, it's pretty much a standstill. We're about to get teleported, and that was it.
I'm kind of with Rico on this one.
Hopefully, because if they couldn't actually harm each other, then there's again writing.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah,
'Cause
well,
now,
that's your point. Yeah, because we'll see later on how Post Samurai was pivotal in one of the
Mhm.
things. So if they got him out of out of that way, then yeah, I don't know what he would have done on that part.
So then the transfer starts, and first one out is Takeshi. And here's Takeshi in a new area we haven't seen before with a tall, lanky woman with dark black teeth and no eyes just walking forward towards him, making noises. I love the fact that they went with Japanese folklore for this mission, though, for all the enemy combatants. Really, really like that idea.
Yeah, and you can tell Oku liked it as well because I felt like he put a lot more attention to detail
Oh
into
yeah,
this arc, especially compared to like the Buddhist temple.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like there was a lot that was there, but it was more fill the gaps in your head,
Whereas
and
this one is
everything
like you
was
can tell this
just
is what he
big
really he
blocky
was
chunks of
interested in
color.
this.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the team are now in Osaka.
And while Takeshi is kind of on his own as everybody's being transferred in, little bro hits the shoulder check. That was
Yes,
so dope.
Yeah,
it kills her in one.
Yeah, yeah.
The thing that
Little kid strong apparently.
what I forgot was that when they were doing the points at the end of this mission, how much he actually got. I was like,
Yeah.
damn. But we'll
Yeah,
get
he
there
put
when
in
we
work.
get there. So after that, the new team comes in and they find out that they're not in Tokyo anymore. And they're kind of looking around for the enemies. And next thing you know, they run into another Gantz team.
Dun dun dun.
Insert the Osaka branch. The most American Japanese group of people that have ever been put in a comic book. I've ever been placed in a comic book.
This team is
Batshit insane. They're smoking
Yeah.
weed.
Yeah.
They're listening to music. There's one dude shooting up heroin on a bike. Like shit's bananas.
Yeah, they went all out with that team and just setting up how much they treat this as a game.
Oh yeah,
And they're like, I've got nothing to lose, so I'm going to live however I want, and I don't care about the consequences.
How
And
many
it
winners were on
shows.
that team? There was a dude who won 7 times, 3 dudes who won once, one dude who won 4, and one dude who won 3. So there were some
Yeah.
heavy hitters on the team, and they're fighting essentially a small army. Because I think we didn't say the name of this alien, and I'm gonna butcher it. The Nurihyun alien,
yeah.
which I believe is
Which they
actually
shorten it. They shorten it as it continues on towards Nori.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, this is one of my favorites as far as the missions goes, just because of how insane it is.
It's insane, and also we get to see what happens when you go all out in the game and you continue
Yes.
coming back and selecting new weapons. And one of the prizes that you get to win is a device which connects to their map, where you get to see the point values of the
Yes.
Yeah.
aliens, which I thought was nice because it showed a way of it showed why power scaling was introduced and how they were controlling it, and what the big bads were and how long the arc was going to run. So that was kind of nice, and it was refreshing to not have to just guess, is this the big bad, is this the raid boss right before him? So that was a neat change of pace.
Mhm. I also like to. I find it interesting how just utterly inhuman the Osaka team is, because like one of their teammates will be dying right in front of them. They're like, "Ah, fuck, good job, retard,"
Yeah.
quote unquote.
You said you had it, and that was it.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, "Oh, you got 3 minutes, or you got 1 minute." And he's like, "I don't even need a minute." He's like, "You went over by 1 second," and they almost they almost went blow for blow because of that one little thing. Like they were definitely treating this. They were a World of Warcraft guild that put way too much emphasis on the game.
Mm.
And there was also the sex addict who was having them sexual relations
Oh,
with a demon or an
oh my god,
alien.
yeah.
Yeah. So it was
Hey man, it's
uh,
better than human.
not having any context coming into this arc. I just kept reading through panel after panel. Just like, I don't what is happening right now. When did this story change? It's
Yep.
so much more interesting now.
Although I
Not
do like how
not great, but interesting.
I like how Sakurai was mentioning in there. He's like, man, this happens with everybody in war. Sometimes you just snap.
Yeah,
And
Yeah,
it
because with that, I mean, again, you have Kato, that he has this sense of nobility where he comes in and he feels again where like everybody has to, has to toe a line, whatever, and Sakura's one to try to kind of snap him back, like that's not how the world is,
yeah.
At least, and then at least in his thing is, again, this is war. War changes. Every country has done something
Mm-hmm.
along these lines. So if you keep coming in, I mean, I really feel like it was his way of saying, if you keep coming with this mindset of trying to save everybody or nobody can do harm, you're gonna kill
You're gonna
yourself or you're
die.
gonna
Yeah.
kill somebody else. Yeah,
And I
on
also
that
find
part.
it interesting how, since Reika is now the de facto leader of the team, um, our Tokyo team decides, look, this is kind of out. This is way above our pay grade. So let's just kind of like hang back and wait it out because they seem to know what they're doing.
Mhm.
And Kato comes in and goes, yeah, but we need to save the people. And Reika's like, not our problem. And you could
not our
see that
town.
you could see that flip on him, and he's like, ah, okay, well, fuck y'all. That's what I'm gonna go do. And that's when we get introduced to what the hell is her name? I don't know if I have that one written down.
I don't know her name either, but
Yeah.
yet again, it's because women have no agency in this series, and she's just like, "Oh, you seem like a strange person, but you're actually kind of courageous. I like that. You're also hot. I am a single mother. I love you now."
Yep.
All in the span of what equated to 10 minutes inside of the series, and they're lovebirds. The new relationship has been established. I don't understand. Like, his writing fucking sucks with women, and it's hilarious, and I don't understand it.
That's fine. He's better at world building.
Her name
No,
is
he's not.
Anzu.
What is it?
Her name is Anzu Yamasaki.
Yeah, Yamasaki. Okay, that makes
ANZU.
sense.
But
Okay.
yeah, I'm with Hunter on that. I'm with Hunter on that one. It was like initially she did the whole, I'm 23, like you're 18. Like I keep meeting these young guys and like talking like mad crap to him.
The
Like
whole
you're
time.
And she
naive, you're
was a fun
dumb, what are you
character.
doing? You're just gonna get yourself killed, whatever. And then of course Kato being Kato, and that just somehow softens her it thaws out her cold heart
No,
to
it
the
didn't
point
thaw
of
out her
saying,
cold heart.
"Hey,
It,
you're gonna
it,
live
it
with me."
splooshed her unsplooshed pants.
Probably the hair.
You're probably the hair. Just added a little grease to it. God.
Yeah, but it we did get a really fun battle with yet another very unique character that it was just this giant alien that was absorbing people into its body.
Yes.
It basically was like a reverse pimple where it was sucking you in and breaking
Mhm,
you down into a form of acid.
So
mhm.
pointing to Oka's references, this one was the minus the ape like face. This was a straight character pull from Devilman because that was the same thing that Jizu, I believe his name was, does, where he'll like giant turtle monster grabs dudes and like shoves them in his shell and like melts them for energy. So same character style. I thought that was pretty cool. It was a nice little nod.
It was, and it was a fun character. It was a good reintroduction to the battle for
Mm-hmm.
Kato. Like that was a really good way to establish who his character is and where he stands now that Kay is no longer on the team.
Mm-hmm.
That was a fun reminder battle.
And this another thing in this one is another mission where it feels like the stakes are stupid high because it's not just like the aliens were like cutting through their armor like it was fucking butter.
They were definitely stronger in this mission, and also this was the first mission where I believe from the jump everyone can see what's happening
Mm-hmm.
and they can
Yeah.
see the aliens and they can see the Gantz team, and it throws everyone off for about half a second and then they just kind of move on. And it comes up a little bit here and there as like a one liner of the humans can see them and they're terrified and they die.
I did find it interesting when Kato was actually thinking about what Reika said, and he hesitated before saving that family.
Hmm.
And the dude gives him shit for that too. He's like, "I was calling out for you, and you just like stood there and watched."
Yeah, and it was it was a nice nod to him coming back into his
Mm-hmm.
own because yeah, Reika took all of the survival technique training that she and the rest of the team did with Kay, but she took none
She didn't take the
of
heart.
the moral stance and
Yeah,
the heart of the leadership
took
role,
the mind,
and
not the heart.
he has it and he got to show that to
Mm-hmm.
everyone as well. So that was, yeah, it was a good sequence. I would say that was one of the better sequences that has happened in the story so far.
I will say this: a lot of the Osaka characters were kind of throwaway. Like they were definitely enemy fodder, but enemy fodder with some cool fighting. Because like the
Mhm.
three sadists when they were fighting the demon samurais, I thought that was a pretty cool fight. Um, what the hell is his name? The 7-time winner in his giant mech suit. Oh yeah, by the way, we
Oh,
now have
Oka.
Godzilla. Yeah, Oka. We now have Pacific Rim in our Gantz.
Mhm.
We
There,
do, and
there
it
is a
was
giant
dope.
robot versus giant kaiju fight, and it was fucking cool.
And I really appreciated that most of the panels were just pieces of
Yes.
the mech, so it was put into scale for the reader of just how
Oh yeah.
big this thing was, and it
Mhm.
wasn't just 10,000 foot view battle of everything underneath. That was really fun. I
No,
appreciated that direction.
it was about the size of like I'd say like a 6 level apartment building. Like
Yeah.
it was a sizable mech.
Oh, definitely.
Um, but yeah, we also when he ejects out of it at one point, you see that he is in a different set of armor as well. I would call it the shorty alien upper body syndrome.
Yes, I was trying to remember what the name of that
The big
alien
old
was. It
punchy
was
fists
effectively the exact same thing as
with
that
Guyver
shorty
blades on his
alien.
arm.
Yeah, well, of
Yeah,
course, you got to have them.
it's like
And random tentacle tubes just
Yep.
floating around for no reason.
Hey man, they connect somewhere.
I imagine they connect to
They
the
probably
giant
connect to the
mech
robot.
suit,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was just goofy to have them laying around there.
But yeah, so like that was the thing. A lot of the fights were really well done in this. There's a little bit of dark humor thrown in for fun, but for the most part, like we see the Osaka team is good individually, but shit as a team, and that pays the price because they all get wiped out.
They definitely do. We see early on the vampires kind of go out on their own, and we find out that they also have the bombs in their head because they've been put into Gantz's memory, and
which is emitting their signal to the
Mhm.
is what
It
they say
is,
too.
and also it changes the way that other aliens sense them, and so it makes them appear as enemies at first to the aliens instead of allies. And so they find two
Two
samurai
demon
alien,
samurai, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they effectively befriend them after just a very quick battle until a couple members of the Osaka team show up and decide to try to fight them all. And that was a really fun sequence.
Mm-hmm. Especially when right after the fight goes down, the like chubby face one chops off the girl's arm, and then the demon face one's like, ah, yes, it's time for us to duel. Too stinky, too stinky.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was all it took. And then
I did love the holier than thou lines of dialogue they gave. It was so good.
it was a lot of fun. And they dispatched those two aliens pretty quickly, and then you see them look up and they find who are effectively the three big bads of this arc.
We got Tengu, Demon Dog, and short old man with big earlobes.
Yeah, who can't hold a form to save his life.
Oh god,
But
yeah. That was one thing I did find that was kind of cool when he changed forms to the when heroin addict and nerd were trying to find the 100 pointer. So this is before the samurai fight. They're like kind of going along the docks and they find old dude with the lobes, and he jumps as he's jumping down. He turns into a small child. And then by the time he hits the dock, he turns into a full-grown woman. And then he turns into a giant golden god.
effectively, yeah, with
Oh yeah. Once they hit him.
sunbeams coming out of his eyes or
Yeah.
cyclops
The only
lasers.
reason they got that is because, or no, he didn't transform just yet. It was when he was in the female form that the heroin addict sniped him, and that's when he changed and started doing eye beams.
Yeah,
He
and then
turned
of
on
course,
his brights and got rid of everything.
and we also see just hundreds and hundreds of just fodder aliens showing up in the harbor where they're all at. And when it's the sniper effectively takes him out, it was only the 100 pointers had left, and the nerd just picks it up and just starts spraying down all
Yes.
the cannon fodder, which I thought was great. And I was really surprised at the end of the mission that somehow did not get him 100 points off the bat. Like,
They
he
never
must have been
said.
right there.
They never said that it didn't give him 100 points because we didn't see what happened to the Osaka team. That was, well, I think he was the only one. No, it was the two chicks, the sex addict, and the nerd who
Him.
survived.
Yeah,
But yeah, we didn't see what happened to them.
that's true.
But yeah, so
But if he
he's
didn't
running
get
with the
100 points,
head.
he was right there.
Yep. The Japanese special forces show up and they start fighting the demons and getting
no
into shit
avail.
with the Gantz team. Then they all get killed. Then Tengu comes into play, and he is what was he, 70 points?
I think he was the
No,
85
the
or
dog was the
87
80.
point. Okay.
The
Yeah,
dog
he was
Then,
70.
yeah, he
I
was
think
in
he was
the
like
70s.
75.
Yeah. So I thought that was an interesting fight, mainly because it was just a war of attrition, because they just kept blasting him, because they had a new gun that looked like it was almost like a
Like
big
a fusion rifle.
Yeah, and what it did was it dropped. I would actually say it's more
Oh,
like the
the
Hammer of
pancake
Dawn
gun.
from Gears of War, but with a quicker burst. Because it was
Yeah.
more like a big, like, it just slaps him down with energy. So he hit them like what, 7 to 10 times, and all it did was really piss him off.
It did. Yeah, I like to call that the pancake gun.
The
It's a lot of
pancake
fun.
gun. Yeah.
It shows up more and more throughout the series,
Hmm.
but yeah, it just looks cool.
Oh yeah, it's a really cool
It's a
design.
great drawing.
I think the official name is the Z gun. I think is what they call it. Could be wrong, but I think that's what I read. But yeah, so how who killed him? Was it the because one of the one who won 3 games died fighting him because he got crushed. But I
Hmm.
think they killed each other. Yeah, because he shot him with the gun and it was the lag that did it.
I believe so.
Yeah,
Yes.
and then the doggo comes in, and did the dog turn into the giant titty monster?
No, he grabbed the well, it looks like a black character in his mouth. Black character
Yeah.
stabs him,
Mm-hmm.
basically takes his head off, and then that's when the unbeknownst to them, while everybody's still kind of recovering back from the fights, and they're looking over Knob. Knob is the guy who got crushed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's when somebody, I think it was the nerd, is the one who mentioned like, "Hey, you got to shoot the head. That's the boss's head." And by
Yep.
the time they look, that's
And
when he reattaches it back to his body, and then starts doing the whole body morphing and everything else like that, turning into like 1,000 women.
I thought, what happens when you take 1,000 women who are naked and just Voltron them together?
Pretty much. I mean, it was like, dude, where's my car?
Yeah.
And then attempt to have her suck up a sex addict.
Oh God,
Well,
that was
that
the best. Because he's like, he gets sucked up by him. He's like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm gonna die this way. And then afterwards, it's almost like when he goes under his, you can see his arm kind of like doing the Terminator 2 thing, and he's like, wait a second, this is my jam. And he just
Yeah.
goes for it. He climbs up and literally face fucks a giant woman made of women to the
Yeah,
point where she vomited.
he found his calling.
He found his
That
calling.
was his battle.
He lost his arms and legs, um, but he got what he needed in the situation.
But he survived the mission.
He
And
survived
that's
the mission.
honestly the most impressive part.
He was the MVP in this game, really.
Yeah,
At least he was
given
the MVP in my heart.
given all of the depravity you watch him get up to throughout the entirety of the arc, you're like,
Hmm.
yeah, this is definitely the guy. I'm like, I saw you making it through all of this the whole time, clearly.
I do love kind of like aside as before we get into the main battle, like at the end where he's like one of the chicks is carting away is like, hey, you let me bang you. Come on,
yeah,
man.
that
I need
I'm
it.
gonna die just one last time. I need this.
like, you
Really.
want to leave him?
Yeah, it's like, you want to just dump him here?
He's got 4 tourniquets on, and he's still thinking about that. It's impressive.
My man's a monster.
And then after he goes down, that's when we see Oka finish his battle with the giant kaiju, and he
Mhm.
hops down with his shorty alien armor, where it's effectively just a little bit thicker of a suit all around his
No.
body,
They
but then
matched,
his arms.
Hold on, before you do that, because he had changed forms by that point. So Kato came in, fought with the monster. He was about to get sucked up and died, and then Nishi pulls a Nishi,
That's true.
teleports out and uses the pancake gun and smashes the shit out of the dude, and then does it again, almost killing. I think it was Kato and somebody else,
Hmm.
and then it transforms into Diablo with a scary moose face.
Yeah, it's an effective enough description. Yeah, and that's when Oka shows up, and yeah,
They
he's
just go fucking toe to toe.
they do, and he seriously has the
We
shorty
did-
alien where
we
it's
did
just
forget to
giant
mention-
gorilla arms that hit
Hold
the
on,
ground.
we did forget to mention. Kaze did get 3 chapters of just whooping ass.
Oh, we
And it
did.
was
I don't
the
know how I
best part
forgot
of the
that.
Osaka arc.
Dude, Muscle Rider has just slowly become my favorite character throughout this series, and in every mission, I am terrified he's gonna die. Everybody else, I'm like, it's fine, whatever. But they did such a great job building up the relationship between him and Takeshi that, oh man, I'm dreading the last 30 chapters of this book. I have no idea
Yeah,
what's gonna happen, but it's the only reason I'm dreading it.
I think with that one too, with that story, at least giving the writer credit is that at least he's showing that the characters are all transforming. Where Kai had lost, like he had this one type of attitude, then it changed, then he's like everything went to the everything hit the fan, and then he finally got his confidence back, and then with how you say his name, Diaz, he at least saw now where it's like I need this kid, and this kid needs me,
Mm-hmm.
and this is what we can live for. Like I got to live just for this because this gives me a purpose, and I like how they went back and looked on how he was growing up, always trying to
Mm-hmm.
fight, whatever. Even though they called him old man, I don't know why they called him that. Maybe because of the
It's
way
because of
he
the way
was
he
dressed and
dressed.
looked. So
Because they
I
called him
mean, at
out on
least
like the shoes he wears and like the clothes he wears all the time. So
yeah, because
it's
they're
mostly
like
the way he
he's like we
dressed.
don't wear those no more, or
Yeah,
whatever. But at
because
least
he
it
wears the
shows that
wooden
hey,
clogs.
yeah. But it showed again, which the dog had too.
Yep.
I think it was the dog one had. But again, it shows again where it's like he had a purpose, he had a certain way of living his life, and then now that he saw this, it's like okay, I got to do something um better, which kind of makes it kind of sad later on with what happens to Gramps.
Ooh
But
yeah.
Which
So
time?
yeah.
well,
I felt so bad for that character throughout the life of his arc in this book. It felt like every mission, they're like, hey, you don't need your arms and legs. It's cool. You'll get a tourniquet. You'll survive. Only a little bit of trauma. You're old. It doesn't matter. I felt like every time we looked, he was finding new ways to just get mutilated
Mm.
and become a burden on the team. It was impressive.
Yeah. So Oka gets his big fight with the big bad and whoops the shit out of him for a good hot minute there, and then finally does the good old fashioned cell king like Kamehameha wave and just disintegrates him. And he's walking away, and Kato goes, "Oh, so we're good now, right? We're done." And he's like, "Fuck no, man! I'm getting out of here. That dude's too much."
Yeah, he knew what was coming and he dipped immediately.
Yeah. So we see rising from the puddle a spiky lich from Dungeons and Dragons. Like I got lich vibes.
I can see that. It fit. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
And it knew as soon as it came back that there was nobody left that could challenge it, and it
Yeah.
wanted to go
Literally
fight
looks at
Oka again.
Kato and is like, or no, it was Kaze. Kaze walked up to him because, got it. After he went down, Oka bounced, and then a giant like cluster of orbs just shoots up in the air and blasts out, almost like a
mm,
shrapnel grenade.
Kramer.
Yeah,
Oh,
a claymore. Hits Takeshi and takes him down, and we get to see Kaze fucking freak. So he goes to go toe to toe with this guy, and the monster's like, "Nah, I want the other one first. I'll be back in a minute."
Yeah, and the best and worst part about that was the strongest human that we have seen to date, who was Oka. He had been through this game 7 times now at this point. He dies off screen. The monster comes
Oh
back
yeah.
after a minute or two when the team has an opportunity to game plan and figure out a strategy of how they want to beat it. And then it just drops from the sky with Kato sitting in the middle of the bridge, and it's just holding Oka's head. And it's like, well, that wasn't very fun.
I
mm,
meant he didn't he disintegrated him and he came back as the old man but big and strong, and then he started mimicking Oka's costume. They
Hmm.
fought.
yeah,
Oka like he ejects from the suit when they think it's like the aliens getting a final hit. Just does a flip over the dude and just does a stabby poo through the chest and just dissects him up. And
mm,
Yes.
that's where we find out that he's not infallible, but his regeneration sucks ass if he gets a surprise attack. And
Hmm.
that's when Oka's pieces it because he's like, I can't deal with this. So the
Which
team
was
decides
ironic because had he stayed,
he
they
would.
could have killed it pretty much
Oh
instantly.
yeah, oh yeah. Had he not been
All
an
it took
idiot.
was just a modicum of teamwork, and
Mm-hmm.
they would have been done with the mission.
mm,
And when the alien comes back, that's when Kato's standing on the bridge, and the whole team is just set up in position around
Mm-hmm.
the area to just shoot at him all at once and try to kill him in one big burst.
I do love how the alien is like, I'm going to kill you now, and sticks his fingernail right on Kato's head, and then Kato's like, wait. Now hear me out. Why are we doing this? And he goes on to this. He goes on to this speech about like about God, And as soon as Kato asks, like, are you God? And he says, no, something more powerful or something like that. And then he gets sniped.
Yeah, and not very effectively at
No, he
that.
got his left shoulder blown out. But then we find out that he has doomsday eye lasers.
Yeah, it went
Well,
from a
we already.
glare. It went from a glare scan to
Well,
beams.
no, he went from like psychic energy to actual like precision beams.
That's true. Yeah, I don't know. I looked at it almost just like the UV laser that Kay had with the car battery and the
Yeah,
flashlight
just
initially. That's what
a lot more
that's what it
thinner
seemed
and
like.
precise.
Yeah.
Mm.
So he starts blindly shooting all around, trying to figure out who's hitting him. As he just keeps getting smacked and split. He gets his head split in two and starts shooting multi lasers in different directions.
Yeah, and the battle just keeps breaking down as they're trying to shoot
Oh
and
yeah,
blow him up. And at one point, Kato loses
His legs
his
again.
right
one.
arm and half of his chest.
No, both legs,
No.
legs and arms, legs and one
Okay.
arm.
Yeah, what it was, I think you're talking about is no, never mind. She came back to that. Never mind. Old girl came back to save him,
Yeah, and
and then
that was
got
after he
he
got
got spiced up.
all shot up. Um, so I guess that's kind of goes where we go into it. So the Yamazaki comes in to try and save him, and she gets blown in half. And is it at this point that Host Samurai jumps in and does big damage?
Yes, that
Yeah,
was it was at that point because it was the very tail end of the battle,
Mm-hmm.
and it's looking like Host Samurai is going to be the one that ends up getting the final blow, but Kato is laying there on the ground almost dead, and he pulls out the pancake gun and gets the final shot
Well,
off.
it was wasn't it because Host Samurai had to dip because the laser started shooting more wildly? Because I think at this point he was now shooting off like 6 laser beams.
Yes, I believe
Yeah,
so.
and that's when he gets pancaked and fight over.
Which that part was it looked like it was going to be the same ending as the Buddhist temple arc where he ends up finishing off the big bad and then at the last second he ends up dying as well before the transfer can take
Mm-hmm.
place. So it was nice to see that it was the same setup but this time he managed to just hang on long enough in order to make it back for the transfer. So at that point, like you had said, there was the 4 members of the Osaka team that made it back,
Mm-hmm.
and
Oh, and the nerd
nobody.
did say that he was gonna revive Yamazaki.
Yeah, but that came a little bit later. But
Mm.
yeah, then um, everybody
No,
that
no, he
came from
said
the
that
Tokyo
before
team
during the
lived.
transfer. When they
Oh,
started
okay.
transferring
Sorry, I
him,
thought it
he's
was. I
like,
thought it was at the very end.
I'll bring her back because she had said something like, "Well, you and your brother can come live with me, or we can all live together, or something," like to try and motivate him not to die.
And also, she didn't want to be a single mom anymore.
True. But yeah, so then they get out. He says, Nerd says his things, and then we get back to the room. The points in this one were very interesting, I thought.
Yeah, the what I really loved was I thought it was just a little throwaway gag at the beginning of the arc where they start putting the panda in the suit and you see it
Mhm.
walking around. But then as soon as they start giving out points, the
My
panda
boy
had
Hoy Hoy
40.
gets
yeah.
40. And I
And
love
then there's
how
also
was it Sakurai who said, "Oh, well, I have heard that that pandas can be quite vicious."
yeah, and also that we then get to see the running gag of the panda in this series where after every mission the news like the panda escaped again
Yep.
but they finally caught it. So that was pretty funny.
Mhm. Let's see. Inaba got nothing, as he should.
Yeah, because
Um,
he's a trash character
yep.
and
Ranka got
person.
nothing.
Because
Uh,
she's a terrible leader.
yeah. Takeshi got 35.
I believe so. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was somewhere around
So
there. It
he
was
was in
under
the
50 for
30s.
sure.
Kaze got like 40 something. Panda
And
got
then
40.
No,
and
Nishi
Takashi
got
got
like
20. Takashi got 26. Kaze got 35.
that's what it was.
and
Nishi
all
got
those
like
26 points were
47
just
points.
Yeah, because he was just sniping people
Yep.
from a distance and from the shadows.
Fucking
But also
campers.
the what I loved was that 26 points for Takeshi came just from that geisha
Yeah, right.
alien at the beginning of the arc, which she would have been considered like not quite onion alien on the first go around, but it looked like pretty close.
Oh yeah,
So
like she would have wiped out a team of newbies easily.
so yeah, homie's been training. He had it down.
And then uh, Kato got 100. So of course, or no,
He did.
Nishi got 100 too, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yes, and
Nishi had
Nishi asked
100.
for his
Got
upgrade immediately.
yeah. He was like,
Mhm.
He
"Give
learned
me the
from
weapon
Azumi's
now."
mistake.
So he got his gun, and then Kato got 100, and he brought back K.
Yep. For a second there, it looked like he was gonna take the opportunity to get his life back,
Mhm.
but
It would have never happened.
it
Like
would
that's
yeah, there was no way to continue the story if he had
Mhm.
picked
no,
that
no.
route.
Just from a character perspective, he would have never taken. He never would have taken number one.
Yeah, very true. But also just like you knew it was gonna happen because there was no way to continue the story
Yeah.
forward if he did. And so it wasn't really a very big climax that it should have been.
I do find it funny that when Kay comes back, he's in his suit because the last time Kay was technically part of the machine or was like his save point would be at the end of the Oni mission. So everything that
Mhm.
happened for the 2 months he was gone is null and void.
Yeah, and he also did not remember selecting the option to lose his memory
Yep.
and go home.
Mm-hmm.
So it came right before that. I
Also, Cherry is not so cherry,
Oh yeah, yeah, not so cherry.
which was funny because then
Cause
when they
yeah.
asked, "What does he mean by that?" Nothing. Nothing. Did like that comedy part.
I will say this: the only thing that kind of takes me out of these translations, the fact that they've now started upending like Kun and San and everything, it it takes me out of the panels a little bit.
really
Because like every other chapter before this didn't have it, and since this is like the fan translation, it does take me out a bit. But it's easy enough to just drop that when reading it in my head.
that's true. Uh, this is when this was the start of the plot armor having to get us through the next few missions to set up the end game for
Mm-hmm.
this story. This is where I feel like this was the last point where you felt like there were any real stakes in any of the next coming missions. And there was a lot of thought and detail that went into the Osaka arc specifically, but there wasn't a whole lot of story. It seemed like he mostly just used the Osaka team as shock and awe to fill out the panels and really make you think, holy shit, you don't want to be part of this game long term. Like your humanity is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Look at who you become if you stay here. And he really focused in on that and the really fun visuals of this arc that he clearly enjoyed drawing and writing for. And we got done with it and we then went into the next couple missions which are extremely short and I felt like nothing happened and it
So
was really frustrating.
before we get to that, we do have to mention that they started asking Nishi some more questions, and that's when he brought up the catastrophe. So he goes over and tells Gantz, Gantz, show us the catastrophe timer, and we find out that Earth has 7 days and 23 hours left until the end. So before we get into the next, I'm just curious, what were your guys' thoughts of what the catastrophe would be?
They mentioned nuclear war,
A
which
lot,
I
yeah.
didn't, yeah, which seemed like a red herring because everything that had been happening up until this point was either some sort of game show or the team actually battling some sort of yokai or aliens or something like that. So I wasn't sure exactly what it would be, but I assumed nuclear warfare was completely off the table.
Mm. By you, Rico.
I thought it was more of going to be some type of alien invasion.
Okay.
That
Okay.
something was going to come around because again, there was no. Even when Kato asked the Osaka boss, there's no rhyme and reason why they're hunting the aliens. So I figure that if the aliens were here peacefully, not doing anything, and this was a game, that this finally got enough tension to where okay, you guys got no choice now. Now you're gonna have the whole mothership and everything gonna
Mm-hmm.
come after you guys.
All right, and there is literally nothing in between these missions because we go straight into mission number 9, the
Italy.
final mission.
It's
Well,
the Italiano mission.
Italiano.
we do find one thing though, as
Hmm.
far as the story, the factory.
Was that before Italy?
Yeah, that
No,
was before Italy.
that was post Italy.
That's post Italy.
Hmm.
No,
No, no.
I have that written out before
They
that.
set up the online chat with Sebastian. So Kikuchi, I think his name is. Hold on, I got it on my phone.
Yeah, the journalist looks for a translator because he wants to
Yeah,
go to Europe.
and that's when he
They
meets
Yeah.
they
Sebastian.
set up that plot line very briefly in just a few panels, and then we immediately go into Italy and the rest of that story, which was fun, and that was the start of when the book actually started to get good, came after Italy.
Funny how my love for Frontline is right here.
Mhm.
He's
Uh,
fact checking us right now. He
no,
doesn't
that's
believe
fine. He
us.
can fact check all he wants. I'm almost positive like it was just a little bit of the whole like Germany escapades before Italy. There wasn't much though.
Uh, yeah, no, I'm looking at the notes, and it was all afterwards for sure.
Yeah, see, that's what I
Okay.
thought too. So then we
No,
get to
I
Italy.
just had like Corona contemplated what Daichi had wrote him from Germany, and then for some reason I had Gantz. I don't know if that was just my whole thing of saying there's a Gax factory or something, and then also went into something else. But
No, that makes sense. I think that was before Italy, where he has the conversation with Sebastian, and then we get the picture of the factory. Then it goes into Italy. Then it expands on that story.
Yeah, so I mean, we can get into. I'm not positive now at this point. You guys make me second guess, but yeah, that was when we get the first introduction to they open those factory doors and he starts taking pictures. Just hundreds of Gantz balls throughout
Ribbit.
that factory, and uh, it was neat because it showed that yeah, we heard about the American team, the Italy team, the German team. We got to see Osaka, and so there is some sort of global interaction between all of these teams, and we're starting to get to the point where Oku finally decided, hey, maybe I should start pushing this story along, and we can actually get some sort of backstory or filler into why all of this is happening. And it was just this really small clue that plays a pretty pivotal role after the Italy arc. And so the team is transferred to Italy and they are transferred mid battle. There's already at least one more team in the area, maybe two or three, and they are just getting slaughtered. There are little tiny Cupid aliens flying down. And if they so much as touch you, even when you're wearing the suit, first time, you get torn in half. So again, power creep, I feel like these guys are stronger than the geisha alien that Takeshi took out at the very beginning of the last Osaka arc. And this one is incredibly short. Nothing really of note happens. We just get to see that the world is starting to fall apart and that the Gantz teams, no matter how strong they are and how established they have been, it doesn't matter. They are all getting slaughtered immediately. And it's not a fight. They just get obliterated the second any monster or any deity comes near them. They just explode, basically.
Yeah, it was a single touch.
Yeah, which was really cool. And it was fun visually, but again, I just mentioned it's power creep came in.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that you saw on those panels looked like they were a 70 plus point alien.
Oh yeah.
And nobody took out a single one of them from the Tokyo team. They didn't even try. They were just running, hoping not to die.
No, they did get a few. They did because there was scoring at the end of this, so some of them did get some points. But this is where we also see Inaba finally gets his.
Yeah, which I was not upset to see that. And it
Yeah,
was
but it
great
was at the
because he just
cost
started losing
of
fingers at
Gramps.
a time.
Excuse me.
Yeah, yeah, and he really just did not have a good death. But yeah, then of course Gramps tried to save him, and that death was just brutal.
Yeah, that was
They
rough.
grabbed each limb and just pulled in an opposite direction, and they treated him like a wishbone.
Yeah,
Can
yeah,
it be said? I wish they would explain more on how these guys, how in Italy something hit the fan to where they just merely just touched them and like their suits and everything didn't matter at all.
it was probably just the strength of the aliens by that point.
Yeah, and this also goes back to what I was talking about last week, where we can see each mission that they get sent on, the villains become increasingly harder and harder overall to deal with, which now that we got introduced to, I looked at my notes, the American, Chinese, and at least the Italian team
Hmm.
as part of this
I think there was
effort,
French in there too.
then there probably was. Then we can see that, yeah, it is the more experience you have overall and the more that Gantz trust the team or at least the expertise on the team, then you're going to get transferred into these higher stakes
Hmm.
missions. So that was kind of cool. And you also get to see, because of the factory scene where you saw all the Gantz balls before, that yeah, this is some sort of global entity that is controlling all of this. And there is a rhyme or reason. We don't know why, because that would require him to bother to try to explain anything. But we know that there is some form of global cabal.
Hmm. And then it seemed like without them really even there I don't think there was really an end a reason to stop the fight. They just ended it.
They
And
didn't they
I
didn't end the fight. They were transferred out mid battle. There were
exactly,
still
and
people
I
dying around
think
them.
that's because they hit the death clock clicked 0.
They
Uh
mentioned something about lag, but I don't know if it was just because everybody was getting teleported out, and except for Kai, he was still
well, because
he was still battling the
if
big
you
one.
notice, it does each individually first. So
Yeah,
that
he was
could be
unlucky
he
with the
was just the
timing.
last one.
Mm, I
What
don't.
I'm
I would have to disagree because with the way the panels were going, it looked like people were going simultaneously.
Yeah, but they were
We're
probably
getting
from different teams. Because remember, there were multiple.
no, it,
Was
it
it?
was the Tokyo team.
Okay, fair.
Every other mission prior to this, they were all done one by one.
Yeah,
So if they did, then I imagine that was probably just a mistake that they didn't catch.
yeah. Well, I mean, there was a mistake in the when Kato was brought back. The events of how he died were not the same. So,
Mm.
I think it's understandable there could be a mistake here or two. Because
Yeah,
the series ran for like 5 years. Was it?
something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because I think there was a break at some point. So it would make sense that that some things would be forgotten.
so the way I read into them being transferred out mid battle was that yes, Gantz has some sort of autonomy to be able to determine what battles that ball's team gets sent to. And I think it just realized at that point that there was no way they were coming back from this, and the world clock is about to end.
Mm,
So that's why everybody was transferred back mid battle, because it was just lost and there was nothing they could do about it. That was how I read into it anyway.
that makes sense.
Basically,
Um,
cut your losses.
so yeah, they get pulled out and they start grading everybody. And after they get their score, there's a big 0, and it just says the end.
Well, let's not brush past the fact that Kay was missing an arm and
Oh
half of his
yeah, I
chest
forgot
and
about that.
still got transferred out. And yeah, it was a really cool death between him and the statue he was fighting. But oh my god, how do you justify him living after that? I hated it so
Hey
much.
man,
Like
adrenaline's a hell of a drug.
if you really want him to live,
Hey,
give him a less severe injury. Like that was
sheer
not
will and
okay.
determination.
Sheer will and determination.
and the thickest plot armor you can find.
4 C's filled with Kevlar. So they get transferred back, and everybody gets a score of mostly zeros, except for Reika was the only one who actually scored big because she hit 100.
Reika, Nishi. This was when Nishi got
This was
his
when
weapons
Nishi got his
upgrade.
100. Yep.
So yeah, he picked option 2 to get a new weapon. Said he wanted it immediately
As
because
the
he
whole
learned
team
from
was pleading
Izumi.
with them to bring back Suzuki.
Yeah, and then yeah, Reika tried to revive Gramps,
But
but for
the
whatever
ball
reason, the ball just shut off.
So they don't get Suzuki back, and everything's just kind of, they think, well, it's at end, so we're free now. So they all leave, and then they Kay notices that Reika's still wearing the suit. So he says, "Hey, you're still wearing your suit." So she runs back to go change, and
you're missing one big factor, that the vampires were also sent on this mission, even though they did
yeah.
nothing, and they elected to leave when the ball shut off, and they just said, "Well, there's no point in killing them now. The team's already dissolved. Who cares?"
Well, it
And they
wasn't
just
even
walked
that. It was
away.
more like the female vampire was asking about, like, well, what, since we're enemies again, should we kill him? And he's like, nah, I just don't really care anymore.
Yeah. And then that's when Reika goes back inside, if you want to keep going now.
Yeah, so Reika gets the 100-point menu, and without hesitation, she says to bring back Suzuki, but the ball's power shuts off. They whack it a few times, it comes back up, and then it fully flatlines. So they decide to leave. After they leave, Reika comes back to get changed, and that's when we see that the dude inside of the ball is out of the ball and up and walking around.
Which was our first indication that it's not just some reanimated dead guy that
it's just
inside.
it's a bald dude.
It's a unnaturally bald dude. Like, he is smooth all over.
Oh yeah.
He's also chiseled, but
right.
that's neither here nor there, I guess.
But he goes and he tells Reika, "Oh, can you give me that name again? And I got enough power to bring him back." And she starts saying Suzuki, and then pauses, and next thing you know, Kay is back
Again.
Which I thought was a really cool. It was a really interesting callback to the beginning with the two other Ks.
It was, and she 1000% just brought him back to be her own personal pet.
Yeah.
Which was like selfish AF, but like, I can respect the hustle.
Yeah, that was a weird one when I first read that. I was like, oh, how's that gonna work?
Yeah, and Kay was not happy about this, which I thought was, this had to purely be a writing thing, because Kay instantly came back and well, no, kind of, but also he came back and he instantly started lusting after Tay again. Shockingly, I know, but then he's upset about the fact that he's a clone and he was brought back for Reika, and now he doesn't know how to exist as a clone in this world when they're all clones. Everybody is being scanned into Gantz and just being revived over and over again. And at one point in the series, we even see when Gramps is dead before they had revived him the first time, because they weren't able to this time, he had that moment with his wife and she told him that it wasn't his time yet. So even though their bodies are dying and they constantly are being cloned back to life, their soul is still staying with their body. And so now I guess we're supposed to interpret this as Kay's soul is now split between the two clones that are living. I'm not sure, but I thought it was really weird that the character himself was upset about the fact that he was a clone when he's been a new version of that clone literally every time they're transferred to or from a mission.
I think that could be just the fact that I'm just taking from my point of view, like where something happens and you kind of forget about it, and only time you remember it, it's when something comes about. Where with him, he knows for a fact. I mean, like again with Kay, his mindset is again focused on Kojima living and just surviving the game. I don't think the fact that he's a clone of himself ever enters his mind anymore. But with him being brought back a second time, off the bat, he's told you're a clone only for this, and for him, it's like for him is I think his point of saying that he's in love with iGen is just the fact that of like even though I'm a clone, I still have memories and stuff, and this is what I know. Like what you brought me here for was more or less just selfish. So from this point on, I'm gonna know for a shadow of a doubt that hey, I am a clone. I'm a clone of the clone, and therefore, it's I'm not gonna be original on that part. So that's why, he was so upset about it on that part.
Yeah, I guess that's true, but yeah, it was just if any of the characters take 10 seconds to think about it, as soon as you get broken down and transmitted to another area, you're a new version of that same clone. That one basically died and you were reborn with the memories up into that point. So it was a really strange distinction, but
Mhm,
I feel like it was made more for the plot purposes to give them something to do than it was really how the character would have acted in that moment.
mhm.
And then after that, yeah, Gantz leaves the room. So that's when we realize that Gantz is just some ordinary person. It seems like, and he just goes to the room for the missions ahead of time to get everything set up and then transmit everybody there. And then we also
Naked
find
though.
out that the yeah, oh yeah, naked, of course. He puts the
He goes
clothes
naked to
somewhere
work and
out of
naked to back.
reach. He doesn't hide his clothes the same place that everybody else does. So I'm wondering where those things go because nobody ever found a set of clothes like, hey, he's just a normal guy. Uh,
He
and
was in his clothes. He was wearing a birthday suit.
yeah, that's kind of it.
The Emperor's
And
clothes.
we also find out that the bombs in everybody's head are gone.
Mm-hmm.
So the
Mhm.
catastrophe is coming. The Gantz ball said, "This is the end. We're done," and the bombs are gone. But everybody still has their suits and everything else so they can prepare for doomsday. They just don't know what they're going to be preparing for or how they're going to get through it. That was a nice way to reset the stakes of the series, I thought,
Mm-hmm.
and get us to the point where we were feeling really comfortable in the last few missions with everybody making it through, the injuries being gruesome, but plot armor saving them, and now we're kind of back to square one, which was nice because it felt very formulaic up until this point.
That's fair. And I say let's call it for now because I got some stuff I need to go deal with.
All right,
And
works for
Can
me.
then
I just add one more thing?
yeah, go ahead.
How do y'all feel about the whole? Because this happened. This happens. How do you feel about the whole? The reporter going to Germany and then coming to find out like the random numbers were actually from the whoever it was the guy's daughter,
So I
and
was gonna
that's how
say let's
everything
get
got.
into that on the next one
Okay.
because that's exactly what this leads into.
I will update my notes.
Yeah, because I'd say yeah, that kind of leads into the Cataclysm as like a perfect. That's a perfect segue into the Cataclysm. So I say let's start that out with the final Gantz cast portion of Nerdverse Odyssey.
Works for me.
Yeah.
All right. Merry Christmas, guys.
Yeah,
You
Merry
have a good
Christmas,
night.
Merry
everybody,
Christmas to y'all
and
too.
have a good one.
Bye.